So when trying to reset the SI joint, we need to understand common pelvic tendencies in addition to common tendencies for our rib cage position. So typically that right hip is oriented more internally rotated or shifted backwards, while that left hip is more oriented forward or externally rotated. So we have more of an anterior pelvic tilt here with a more posterior pelvic tilt on the right side. So it's going to cause this torque within the pelvis, which is going to encourage that sacrum to shift to the left. And so this is sometimes can cause some discomfort within the pelvic girdle just based on how force distribution can now be done through the pelvis with the sacrum slightly shifted off. So what we want to focus on is focusing on movements that are going to activate the hamstring and adductor on the left side to help pull this pelvic half back, while also activating the glute on the right side to pull this pelvic forward, which is going to shift that sacrum back towards neutral. The other things that we can think about is the muscles that may be tight that are pulling the pelvis into this position on the other side. So we have our left hamstring and our left hip flexor and quad that may be pulling that pelvis into the more of that anterior tilt. And then on the right side, our adductor and our hamstring may be encouraging or pulling more towards that backside. So releasing those can sometimes help us find more of that neutral position in addition to activating on the opposite sides. The other thing that we want to consider is how our rib cage influence is going to affect the pelvis. So with this pelvic position being more like this, I'm going to tend to rotate towards my right side to help counter this, while also compressing on the right side and flattening on that left posterior side. So I want to be focusing on is finding more length here on the right side, while also finding more expansion in the upper back. So let's go over an exercise that can help you kind of reset all of them. So one of the first things that we can do is we can do a hip flexor and quad release. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to tuck my butt underneath as I push the hips forward. And this is going to help to release the muscles on the front side of my left pelvis. And then as I do this, I'm going to drive the knee down to help turn on this glute, while also pulling this foot back to help activate the hamstring on this side. So we have a little bit of like opposites working together. I have a push and a pull that is happening. In addition, I can also focus on finding some of that expansion in the side body to really activate through the front side here to help kind of release the tension in this side of my body. So I'll hold here for a few breaths and then I can come back. The next thing that I can think about is that expansion in the upper back. So I can think push, pull. I'm going to reach and then push my chest back to find that expansion. So I'm thinking big inhale, feel my upper back expand, and then exhale to release. And then I can do this on the other side. So I'll come to the other side now. I'm going to tuck the pelvis underneath as I drive the hip forward to stretch that quad and hip flexor. I'm going to push this knee down as I drive my left foot back. So the traction, the foot's not actually going to move, but I'm thinking like traction to almost like push pull at the same time. And then I can find that expansion on the right side, which is the side that tends to be more compressed. So I'm thinking a big inhale into the space and then exhale to release. Big inhale, exhale, release. The other thing that I can think about is I can come a little bit more forward with it. So I'm finding that expansion, and then I have my left arm here that I can reach with. I'm thinking push my chest away from my palm to find more expansion in the upper back. And then big inhale, exhale, big inhale, exhale. So this is another SI joint reset exercise that we can do that's incorporating a lot of elements to help reset the pelvis. So what we're focusing on is finding that expansion in the right side that tends to be a little bit more compressed. We're finding more expansion in the upper back that tends to be more flattened. We're thinking drive this left hip crease back so we can find a more neutral pelvic position as we bring the right hip forward. So we're finding that neutral pelvic position. So hope this helps.